when they talk about the ordinary New Zealander, when Mr Chevelle says we will put middle New Zealanders at the core of what we do. Well, that's a very interesting thing to say, isn't it, in the context of the report which came out very recently from the Institute of Economic Research, which looked at the impact of the 90-day trial period over the 6-month period following its introduction in March of 2009. The results of that trial period were very interesting, and I will read from a section of the report. Unemployment peaked at 7.1% that year, and considering the economic conditions, small businesses, that's ordinary New Zealanders to the ideologically driven of you, were operating under, the indication that hiring was almost 6% points higher than expected is extremely good. Furthermore, they said total job numbers for these firms were also higher by about 2%. Now, in her contribution earlier today in this debate, the Minister of Labour, Kate Wilkinson, told the House that that was some 13,000 jobs. That's 13,000 good, ordinary New Zealanders, so beloved by the ideological driven Labour Party, that have got jobs. Now, that, in my eyes, a success, but how did Labour react? How did Helen Kelly react? She hated it. Why did they hate it? Why did they hate this initiative, this 90-day free trial, which has proved to provide 13,000 jobs, has saved jobs for ordinary New Zealanders? Why did they do that, Simon Bridges?
Because we did it.
Because we did it. Well, if that isn't ideologically driven to the benefit of ordinary New Zealanders, I think it's a shame that Labour have got the blinkers down.
Right.
In Charles Chevelle's speech, he also talked about some other aspects of policy which National can be very proud of. Minister Nick Smith relaxed the rules around air quality standards. Do you know why? Because they were simply undoable. Mr Speaker, those air quality standards were going to adversely affect places like Ranfurly and Alexandra down in the South Island, which have got inverted air sheds over them and which were due to breach those air standards a number of times per year, simply couldn't conform to the standards. We would have ended up with regional councils prosecuting district councils and citizens for what? Because the citizens in those towns couldn't afford to buy clean burning fuel. Now, what is this government doing about that? We are providing subsidies for people to put in clean burning wood fires into their homes. That is a success. What does Labour think about that?
Blue-green.
That is a blue-green initiative. What does Labour think about that? They can't stand it. And why can't they stand it?
It doesn't involve...
Because it doesn't involve more tax, more borrowing, and because National did it. The drinking water standards are another example where National is in good touch with the needs of community. Under Labour, the drinking water standards were unaffordable, were undoable. National is the government which has taken the interests of the good New Zealand Kiwi. Charles Chevelle's middle New Zealanders has put their interests first. Mr Speaker, it has taken a National-led government to do that. And this year, the National-led government will continue the work of the previous 2 years under the leadership of Prime Minister John Key. Our focus, Mr Speaker, will be on building a stronger economy. This year, the people of New Zealand will have a clear choice. Come November the 26th, they can choose the tax and spend policies of the Back to the Future Labour Party. We're taxing the so-called rich and, well, either driving them out of business or driving them over to Australia is their recipe for economic success, or New Zealanders, even Charles Chevelle's middle New Zealanders, thank you Mr Chevelle, will have another choice. They can have the choice of a government which is focused on building a strong economy, moving away from debt-fuelled consumption, so beloved of Labour, and towards real and enduring economic growth. This is the year for good, strong economic policy and growing the pie, if you like, to put it in the simplest terms, rather than just cutting it up a different way, which is the sum of Labour's lack of aspiration for New Zealanders. Shame on Labour. Shame on Labour for their lack of aspiration for New Zealanders. Because building a stronger economy is the only way we will provide New Zealanders and their families and their kids with better jobs, higher incomes and improved living standards. I want to talk about education. We need to make sure that New Zealand kids have the skills that they need to succeed. Our early childhood education investment has increased by $100 million above the original 2010 budget allocation. $4 billion. Thank you to my colleague Simon Bridges, who is so on the ball about these issues. $104 billion is now being invested into our kids through early childhood education. We're now at the stage where the taxpayer is subsidising early childhood education centres at an average of $7,600 per child per year. And it's interesting, isn't it, that while early childhood education funding has trebled over the past 5 years, the numbers of little kids receiving early childhood education has increased by only 1%.
Oh, shame on Labour.
It makes no sense that in some parts of New Zealand up to 40% of preschool kids receive no early childhood education before they go to school. So we're bringing spending under control and targeting funding at children who need it most. And don't tell me that tired old story that mothers and grandmothers and aunties cannot make a contribution to their child's learning. Don't tell me that sad old story that you need to have 100% trained early childhood teachers in early childhood centres. Just don't tell me, because as a mother and as a grandmother, I know that I can make a very good contribution to my own children, my grandchildren and anybody else's children who care to have it in their early childhood education. Try selling that story, Labour. Try selling that story to the parents of the kids who go to Papakaio School, whose kids in a little country town mostly went to parent-led early childhood centre. They went to play centre. So don't give me that story. Of course, Labour has said that it will reverse this government's sound financial decisions, but they have no idea how they would pay for it. So let's talk about national standards. And let's talk about a story about a mother who came into my office to tell me about her little 8-year-old kid. This little 8-year-old boy brought home his first national standards report. Mum and Dad were surprised and a little concerned to learn that their 8-year-old boy was falling behind in his mathematics. What did they do about it? They went straight to school, they talked to the teacher. The teacher said, yeah, I'm a little surprised, I'm a little concerned, but tell you what, why don't we try this? So the parents and the teacher worked out a plan for that kid. They went home, they did the Cuisenaires. My colleague Simon Bridges won't even know what Cuisenaires know. They're little counting sticks. They did the homework, and in about 3 weeks' time, that little 8-year-old boy was retested. See, Labour don't like to hear this. This is the thing about Labour. They do not like to hear the truth, because that little kid, after about 3 weeks' time, was retested, and guess what? He was back up to doing maths at the normal standards. That is national standards, and that is why Minister Anne Tolley is absolutely on the right track and has the support of parents and students up and down the length of New Zealand. Try telling that to the parents who go into the schools, have a talk to their teachers and fix the problems for these kids who know they're not achieving. This little kid, the mother said he knew he wasn't doing so well. He knew it, and he didn't actually feel that flash about it. Actually, I wasn't that good at maths, still aren't, but never mind. But this kid knew that he wasn't doing so well. Now he does. His self-confidence has come back up. That is a success, and under this national-led government, led by John Key, we will continue this good work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.